we're moving into kind of voice 2.0, where large language modules are going to start powering the voice assistants you talk to at home. If you talk to Siri or Gemini or ChatGPT, and now talk to Alexa, you're going to get far better experience. Now is the time for brands to kind of invest. And I think now we're going to see the growth of a few billion-dollar voice-first businesses. And, we're hoping to be the vanguard there as the consumer behavior really kind of catches up with our dream. If you're able to build a personality alongside the value proposition of the business, then you're able to create a massive point of difference, because people will associate the energy, enthusiasm, charisma, other personality traits of that individual alongside that business. And that can be massively differentiated if you're standing in front of 100 factories, and if one has a person next to it who's smiling, I'll buy from the man who's smiling.
So this is the Stronger Business Together podcast, where business owners learn from other business owners. No theory, no gurus, just real journeys and overcoming real hurdles. Today, I'm joined by Charlie Cadbury, who runs Say It Now. Like every business owner, he's part of that team that's building something, fixing things, and trying to make something that really matters. So, Charlie, welcome.
Great to be here.
Fantastic. So let's do our first act, Act 1, your business. So in plain English, what does your business do?
So we work with anyone who advertises on the television and the radio, and we make it possible for their audience to engage with those advertising messages using your voice. So imagine you're sat at home listening to the radio, and like 25% of the population, you're listening on a smart speaker. One of the ads might come on. We're working today with Ocado and Tesco's, and a Tesco's ad comes on and says, "Hey, we've got some special offers this week. To find out more, say Alexa, open Tesco's." You are interested in those offers, and you say, "Alexa, open Tesco's," and you're greeted with the same voice that you heard in the ad. It would say, "Hi, welcome to Tesco's. This week we've got offers on picnic stuff. It's sunny outside today, so we've got offers on cheese and hams and baguettes. Can I send you a link so you can put them in your basket?" You say, "Yup." That link gets sent to your phone, and you carry on with your day. Now, the benefit that we get for our advertisers, so like Tesco's, the challenge they have with audio advertising is they don't know which ads they're buying are actually landing with their consumers. So historically, you fire a load of ads out there, you hope you're buying for the right audience segments, and those ads are going out at the right time of day, but you've got no real feedback loop or real-time data to tell you what's working. And so we put a tracking pixel on those ads. We know exactly what time they're served and on what publisher they're served on. So we know whether they're going out on Heart FM or Spotify or Kiss FM or Amazon Music or what have you. We know what time of day they're going out and to which audience segment. And then we know when people say, "Alexa, open Tesco." So we bring that all together in a real-time data studio. And so the advertisers can then use that information to optimize those ad campaigns in real time and see whether people are engaging more on a Monday morning. Is that when people are planning their shopping for the week, or on a Thursday afternoon? And so if they're spending, say, 50 grand a week buying those ad spots, you can use that data to shift that advertising around and get a better return on every pound they're spending on those adverts. So that's what we do. It's a platform to build, manage, measure, and optimize audio and TV advertising campaigns.
Wow, what a real technological innovation and drive. That's fascinating that you're being able to give that real-time data structure to your clients, that understanding what is and isn't working, how people are interacting with it, and how you've brought multiple different technologies together under one roof to make that happen. Fantastic. Well, I think we know what your clients are dealing with because they don't have that level of information and control and understanding. So, what was the original spark? Where did the business start?
So we started a little bit early, actually. So 1st of October 2018, I started this business. I'd switched over from a business making websites, Facebook applications, mobile phone apps, and then moved to working exclusively with voice assistants for the last kind of 11 years, since 2016. And we started off, our first client was Diageo, and the vision at that point was to help brands control the experiences that consumers could engage with within these rising voice assistants. Not many people had smart speakers in 2018, but we could see the trend was moving upward. And so the first thing we built was for Talisker whiskey, and it was a whiskey tasting experience. So they wanted to differentiate themselves at point of sale. So when you go into a supermarket and you see 100 whiskies in front of you, which one should you buy as a gift for dad? And so with their hypothesis that if you put a shiny sticker on their whiskey, then you might choose that one over another. You might have chosen a bottle of wine because it's got a medal on it. And so we put a sticker on these boxes would say, if you buy this Talisker Storm, it comes with a free tasting experience powered by Alexa. Just say, Alexa, open Talisker tasting. And so you would choose that whiskey above the others, take it home. And then when the person opened it, they could say, Alexa, open Talisker tasting. And then we actually had the wife of the chief distiller. She would then guide you through that whiskey tasting experience. And we did kind of tests between kind of 50 different Asda superstores, kind of year-on-year kind of sales data to see that actually just the addition of that sticker changed the amount of whiskey bottles that were sold. And also we were able to deliver a load of insight back to Diageo about the habits of people at home, about what people were interested in, whether it's kind of making cocktails or finding the provenance of the brand or how to taste the whiskey, and also what time of day. And historically it's been very hard for them to get access to, what's going on at home. So that's where we began. And we then moved along to see the biggest problems that we could solve within the world of smart speakers. People were using them to stream audio and ask questions. And the biggest problems with audio advertising is lack of ambient ways to engage with audio advertising and real-time data. And we saw the ability to kind of bring this all together as an obvious solve. So that was the beginnings in 2018. And so in 2019, we entered a global competition for the Alexa Cup, which was Amazon looking for teams that could solve big challenges and kind of put big ideas forward for the platform. And we won that cup and have been working very, very closely with the product team at Seattle ever since.
Wow. Congratulations. An award-winning business as well.
And more came.
Fantastic. So what does the business look like today in terms of size and shape?
So we working with an external development partner to build these Alexa skills in the early days, because it was just me and a fantastic product guy. My previous business, we built an agency with lots and lots of people building code, and I realized that wasn't immensely scalable. So I was very, very keen this time to find a way to build a product to capture a load of value, build some IP with this rise in the world of voice. So I partnered with a fantastic man called Sander Season, and then we had an outsourced development team. After we won the Alexa Cup, we raised a little bit of external finance, and then we had a global media first, the first ever radio ad that you could buy a physical product from using your voice. And so that made some waves in 2021, showed our direction of travel. And we then wanted to build a platform. So very much like you use WordPress to build a website, we wanted to build a platform to build and manage and measure these voice experiences. And fortuitously, I was introduced to a man through a contact of mine in New York called Norbert Hulvarth, and he had gone through the same kind of journey. But he'd been working in Canada for 25 years, sold a couple of ad tech business, and he had actually built the platform that we were just about to build. And we met and we got on very well from the first call. And he said, what's he doing? I'm like, we're just about to build this platform. I was like, don't do that. I've built it. But I can't license it. I'm looking for a route to market. You've got a route to market, no tech. I've got a tech and no route to market. How about you just buy our business, Charlie? And I said, no, but that sounds like a great idea. I've not done that before. It's a bit daunting. How would this all work? And he said, look, you've just raised some money at this valuation. How about we agree a valuation for my business? You've got shares which hold a value, which has just been validated by the recent investment round. So we come to an agreement. We do a share swap. You can buy our business, our technology. We've got they had a team, kind of all the wholly owned subsidiary in India, some DevOps in Canada, a whole load of clients, a few kind of burgeoning clients across the US. And Norbert could come on as our CTO. So we'd run some third-party due diligence. I got to know Norbert, invited him to my house to meet my wife and family and my neighbors to make sure that the social glue all works. And anyway, 100 days later, we'd acquired that business. And so then we had a platform to grow from. We did a load of deals, putting ourselves as the voice provider to top tier advertising and marketing businesses. We work with people like Bauer and Global, who own most of the radio stations that you'll listen to in Europe. They have a voice enabled advertising solution. So that's we use their sales team really to kind of sell us through. And then in 2023, we started running TV ads that you see on the TV, which again, say, if you'd like to know more about this, then just say, Alexa Open. We're currently running with Royal Caribbean across the US, with Audi and Ford across Brazil, Benetton in Mexico, and got the government account in the UK. So it's kind of voice-enabled TV so you could find out more about the HMRC app and download that. So we're we've been waiting a long time for the technology to upgrade, but Alexa Plus has last week or the week before been announced in the UK. So that means that the 50% of homes that have Alexas will be spending more time talking to them. As they're spending more time talking to them, their propensity to engage using their voice to TV and audio as they hear goes up. The performance of the ad campaigns that we manage increases. And so that's then a self-fulfilling cycle. And we've got a slight pivot coming through the summer, which is gently under wraps, but it should accelerate our route to market. We'll build a bit more team out behind that.
Oh, exciting, exciting. So, I mean, what's your marketplace like? Are you the only competitor in the field? Why do your customers then pick you? How do you delight them?
This is the challenge. My biggest challenge is that we are by far and away the market leaders and the only provider of this service. It's very, very niche. In 2017, 2018, there was a whole lot of venture capital that went into the voice as a concept, looking for these kind of multi-billion-dollar opportunities. Everyone thought that the way that Alexa and Google Assistant had come to market were very similar to the way that the iPhone and Android had come to market. They'd come to market and they both created an app store. And behind those two technology innovations, lots of people have developed apps and kind of multi-billion-dollar businesses. Look at Uber, Just Eat, Deliveroo. These all came because of mobile phone application technology. And so the thesis was that was going to happen with voice. And so a load of venture went into voice in 2017, 18, 19. And actually, that didn't happen. So the platforms weren't quite as good as the promise that they were selling. And so, we didn't die. Many of the companies around us came and fell away. And it's only now that we're moving into kind of voice 2.0, where large language modules are going to start powering the voice assistants you talk to at home. If you talk to Siri or Gemini or ChatGPT, and now talk to Alexa, you're going to get far better experience. Now is the time for brands to kind of invest. And I think now we're going to see the growth of a few billion-dollar voice-first businesses. And, we're hoping to be the vanguard there as the consumer behavior really kind of catches up with our dream.
Wow, how interesting to see what that happens. The launch of the iPhone, it took a few years before that even became a platform that people like Uber started using. It wasn't in the first few years.
People didn't trust it. So at that time,
absolutely.
2007, the iPhone launched. 2008, the App Store launched. At that time, I had a web business. We were making websites, then Facebook apps. And 2008, as soon as we could, we started offering the build of mobile phone apps. And it took a year for us to sell our first one. And people were like, yeah, why? Why would I want a mobile phone app? 2009, 2010, people, look, why would I ever use this thing? I use it for texts and making phone calls. Why would I use it for anything else? I certainly wouldn't ever use it for banking. And interestingly, Sander, who's a business partner here at SET, his job during that time, he was the head of mobile for the Royal Bank of Scotland. His KPI was how many physical bank branches could be shut because he was moving people over to using mobile banking. So it was all about focusing on making that user experience, their trust in mobile banking to get those consumers to move across. So yes, consumer behavior shift is hard and it takes longer than one might think. It's my biggest learning here.
Yes. And when you're interacting with a phone, you can actually see the interaction. You can see what's going on. When you're interacting in voice, that's a very different medium to sort of build that trust over time, I guess.
It is, and it's one of the biggest learnings that Amazon and Google have had. And I think OpenAI have said that one of their first physical products will be an in-home smart speaker with a display. And we've now, I think about 20 or 30% of all Alexas also have a display. So I don't think it's kind of voice only. You can have voice first. Everything we build is compatible with a voice only experience. But where we can, we add to that using imagery if there's a screen available as well. And so from the advertising perspective, if you're listening to the radio and you start to talk to the Mercedes ad and you suddenly get pictures of the cars and a button which says book a test drive here, then all those are kind of visual cues. It adds to that branding moment within the kitchen.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, okay, business is growing, things are happening. What are you aiming for in the next 12 months and why?
So what's been very clear, talking to a whole load of investors and future gazers over the last 18 months, is a shift in the way that software businesses are valued, and specifically kind of software as a service business, they're no longer, do you believe you've got a moat in amazing software that you've built? And even kind of customers might be fickle, they might swap in and swap out. But what is incredibly exciting is unique data sets. And so,
Mm.
we've got several investors here, a couple more just about to join, the story and the business plan is to move towards some kind of trade sale within the next 3 to 5 years. What will we be valued on primarily will be a unique data set, which is an understanding about how you can serve TV and audio inventory in a way to get people to engage via their voice. So if we've got our clients Just Eat, we will look into our data lake and say, actually, look, what's the best time of day and the best publishers to put what kind of ad on to make that campaign perform the best, to get the best ROAS, the best return on advertising spend. And so because this is all kind of, these are net new data points, this information doesn't exist in the world at the moment. So we are racing as hard and fast to fill that data lake as full as we possibly can, because that's a direct valuation driver for us. So the quicker we can get to that and then prove that every pound spent within our optimization system is better than any pound spent anywhere else in audio, that then proves the value of that data and makes that's then our defensible mode, really.
Yes, and data sets have always actually been one of the most important things, not necessarily the software aspect that you do, because you can build software quicker now, but even in the past, you could still build software over a number of months and catch people up. But if you have that data set that nobody else has, that was that unique thing. So, and it's just become more important today with the ability of building software fast, but what's it connect to? How's it learn? How's it use that information? So yeah, brilliant. Yeah, really exciting to see what happens next. So let's move on to Act 2 now, the journey of the business and yourself. So as you grow and develop a business, you've done that a number of times. There are ups and downs, there's those highs and lows. What have been some big highs? What have been some big lows for you?
I could talk a little bit. I've worked for myself since I was 22, and so I'm quite well versed in kind of how things can go well and not so well. So the business that kind of taught me a little bit about software development, I started with a friend of mine in 2005, and we kind of grew that organically to a 50-person business, building hundreds and hundreds of websites, Facebook applications, mobile phone apps. And that was great. We had an office in Soho. We had a quarterly party on our roof terrace. I was in my late 20s. I was having the time of my life. It became harder and harder for us to win work. And the work we did win over time became less profitable. And this is because our route to market at that point, we had established ourselves as the premium white label partner for marketing and creative agencies, which meant that early days when they didn't have a digital team or a mobile team or a social team, they would come to us and we'd get all the work and we could charge almost what we wanted. Over time, they developed that competency in-house and we didn't own the customer. And so, our margins got squeezed. We were always going for growth. We ran out of cash and I had to close that business down. That was a very, very unhappy day, having to take all the team up to the roof terrace. We've got the roof terrace. Where's going to be the party this summer, Charlie? Actually, guys, we're out of cash. Is a terrible, terrible day. But you get a chance to kind of take stock. And one of the things that I then did for the 3 years after that is to run a consultancy to help other technology businesses on that high growth phase. And during that time, looking around for other opportunities to myself. And it was during that time, actually advising other businesses allowed me to see what the opportunities were, how the business model and architecture could be different in any venture I did in the future. And I'd read a book by a guy called Daniel Priestley during that time called The Key Person of Influence. Basically, it just says you don't have to be good at everything, just try and be good at something. And I had seen that I'd seen the rise of web, I'd seen the rise of social, I'd seen the rise of mobile, and Alexa had just launched. And as a child who had grown up watching Kit and Knight Rider, I knew that the future was people talking to their technology. And there are some people, when I give that reference, don't get it. But Iron Man and Tony Stark. Tony Stark, when he's in the suit, he doesn't get out an app to control the suit, right? He talks to Jarvis. The most efficient way to communicate with technology is always going to be using your voice. So this was, very, very clear to me. So I said, actually, how about I just be the voice guy? And so from 2015 focused on just being the voice guy, which allowed me to kind of get some early experience building Alexa experiences for brands like Marriott and Allegiant Airlines in 2016, 17, 18, meeting Sander, and then forming the basis of this business. But even there's, we were way too early. It was very hard. We only had one client the first year, one client in the Alexa Cup. Great directionally, but we still needed to get the bills paid. I'd never had to raise any money to grow a business, but I was advised to raise some cash and build if I'm going to build a platform, and so followed that advice. And with the story of the Alexa Cup, very quickly got our SES and more. We had kind of 300k committed for like a zero revenue business with a great story, and that money was just about to close in February, March 2020, and then all of our investors started to come out like, no, quick. So we raised half the amount that we wanted at the beginning of 2020, and then the world shut down, and it was a very, very exciting time. Suddenly, I'm stuck home with the kids, and this great new exciting adventure seems very, very foolish. But all these moments of necessity is the mother of invention. There was some great kind of Innovate UK grants going around at that point, and we applied for one. I think there's kind of 40,000 people apply for it, and then they awarded 800 grants. We got one of those, and that was to test to see whether we were able to run audio campaigns to get people to donate to charity, because the UK charity market collects about £10 billion a year, and it was due to be hit by about 4 billion because of COVID, because there's no marathon, no events. And so we were going to test it out. And so that Innovate UK money allowed us to kind of push forward a bit faster the proof of concept. And we run radio campaigns for The Crisis, for NSBC, Macmillan, WWF and Comic Relief. And those ads were out on the radios. If you'd like to know more about this charity and donate, just say Alexa Open Comic Relief. You'd say Alexa Open Comic Relief, can I donate a tenner? Yes. Can I take that from your Amazon Pay account? Yes. That went through, and then that proved our concept. So that was all great. As I mentioned, we bought the Canadian business, raised a bunch more cash, and that was very exciting. And then burned through that relatively quickly. In a couple of years, everyone said, right, this is the time. Go and make your market. You're the first ones out there. This is working. And then the revenue didn't quite come as quickly as we liked. So we had to halve the team again. So it's stop start fits and starts, but it's eventually now looking like the timing's caught up. So it's been 7 long years here.
And what you've described a few times now of where the business gets really hard, you've had to make some very tough decisions to survive and to grow. What have you learned about yourself during those times?
That you continue to have to be the cheerleader. If you don't believe it's not going to happen, it almost certainly will not. And I think that you do have to take stock. And I'm lucky enough to have a very supportive and good board. It's something that 15 years of running business, I've always had external advisors. Running a kind of monthly cadence, I find, is a very useful way to hold myself to account. And because the way I build mermaids into my own life is I make crazy promises all over the place, and then if I see these people again, I just have to have done the thing that I was going to say. Otherwise, I'll look foolish, and that drives my own momentum. But that needs to be kept into check, and people need to deliver different perspectives, because I'm it's quite positively minded, and that can sometimes be to my detriment. So so the resilience to keep positive and keep the teams around me has allowed me an enormous amount of elasticity in the terms in which people show up. I've been late, when to get to that awful point when you're late in paying staff, which doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it has to be managed very, very carefully. But then, I've never not paid anyone that needed to be paid. And that's, you get through that, and it builds it's just a bit more resilience in what you're doing. You articulate a very clear and exciting vision. And as long as you can show that you're front and center going against that purpose, then you will.
Yeah, I can really see that and understand that's happened and what you've done. So in building a business, you need, I call them habits, repeating activities that we do. What's one thing that you've put in place that keeps your team strong together?
Yeah, so we have a monthly board meeting that kind of trickles down to the team to produce different assets for. So that those bits need to be created. We tend to have socials and events where we get different members of the team to talk in front of our clients and peers, and meet the clients. Kind of get out and we throw a good social. I dress up as Father Christmas and give gifts away at Christmas. That does help. And I think whenever we're out for a new raise or we're doing any kind of shift in strategy and direction, I'm very open and transparent in sharing the investor deck. This is where we are with cash. This is why we're raising. This is the vision, which stays kind of strong and pure most of the time. Our vision is to make it possible to engage with every advertising message using your voice. No matter how we're getting to there, that stayed consistent the whole time. And I think that consistency delivers a lot of faith in the team that's behind you, because you're not choppy and changing the whole time. You're just articulating clearly a big problem to go after, and we're going after with today's best information.
And AI is a real talk about. You've mentioned LMMs and how you're using those, but for yourself, where's AI genuinely saved you time, and where's it a distraction?
So, look, we work in the world of audio. So many customers come to us and say, like, we built this audio ad. Can you add a bit on the end which says, which makes it voice enabled? So we can do that. We can create audio ads. We don't, when we're building into Alexa, we don't have to use Alexa's voice. We can either clone your voice and create your Alexa skill. We can talk to your business, and instead of getting you back into the studio, we can use that clone of that AI voice. So really, really useful in kind of audio editing and production. I write a monthly newsletter. I've got a kind of Say It Now GPT, which helps me kind of pull out questions. I've got my whole data room from an investor perspective. I've got on Notebook LM, all of the different assets within our data room, that sits within a Notebook LM. So when that's out with investors, very often they're pinging you questions all the time. I just copy and paste those questions into Notebook LM and then audit, edit, and then respond the output. And I give the investors access to that and encourage them to do the same thing. But that saves me a huge amount of time. The distraction piece is, because these tools are changing on a daily, weekly basis, doesn't necessarily mean that I need to change my working habits on a daily, weekly basis. I'm in too many WhatsApp AI groups to mention, and trying to distinguish the signal from the noise is the challenge. But a lot of that, I think, comes from a decent peer network. So I was out at a CEO, CTO dinner last night, 12 people around a table talking about exactly this. Where are you building AI into the front end of your product or your business, and where are you expressly not building AI? And just hearing other people's perspective is sometimes the best way to distill that noise from signal ratio.
Fantastic. Really, really thoughtful there. And it's definitely a tool that can accelerate things and make more happen, but it's also a tool that you can chase all the changes that are taking place. And a number of my clients, we have that conversation quite regularly. So brilliant. So let's move on to Act 3 now, our hurdle that we're going to discuss. So we've picked a listener's question. So what are we going to discuss today? What's the hurdle?
So in a crowded market, we struggle to differentiate ourselves. So I like this question. I've worked in a number of businesses and worked alongside a kind of advising number of businesses that work in a world of sameness.
Right, I think that's a really great question, and I think we have a great discussion about this. So let's think about a business, maybe a manufacturing or engineering business. This one came from. So what do you think's going on then? Why are they feeling they're stuck? They can't get their voice out there in a crowded market.
So I think it's about identity and thinking too much about the business and not enough about the people. I fundamentally believe that the best businesses have a figurehead. And if you're able to rise that figurehead up, that figurehead plays a great part in being that point of difference. If you look at any of the greatest companies that you respect the most, you probably can associate a figurehead individual with that company. And I think the point of difference, if you're able to build a personality alongside the value proposition of the business, then you're able to create a massive point of difference, because people will associate the energy, enthusiasm, charisma, or other personality traits of that individual alongside that business, and that can be massively differentiated if you're standing in front of 100 factories and if one has a person next to it who's smiling, I'll buy from the man who's smiling.
Right. So that key person of influence that you talked about from Daniel Priestley, isn't it?
It's much in my mind, yeah.
Yeah. So how would they start thinking about this? Because that's quite a significant change. Because they probably thought their product sells or their delivery performance sells. Now you're adding an extra layer of that. Where would they start thinking about this?
So I think it's so where's the marketing budget? Is the marketing budget producing fact sheets, one pages, and buying a Google placement, or is it building the personal brand of that individual? Like, can that person get to speak at relevant industry conferences? Can that person? So I've had enormous success with PR. Can they become a commentator within the industry and create kind of press releases about interesting things that are happening? And are you able to build a decent CRM so you can communicate from the voice of that ambassador on a regular basis to keep your leads warm?
Yeah, and so they need to sort of sit down and start to understand who's going to be the voice, which is normally the business owner, the key person of influence. We need to understand who they are, what they do, how they stand out, and start to craft and build a structure around that type of thinking. So what do you think are some of the hurdles from your experience that a business owner would sort of worry about and overthink about when they're trying to build this?
So with this kind of like great is the enemy of good. So the fact that they might not be a natural speaker, but that can be solved with I've had a decent amount of media training, presentation training, public speaking training. That's really helped me along the way, kind of build my confidence and ability to do that. Then
Yeah.
that first hurdle of kind of doing something somewhere once and realizing that it's 10, 20 minutes in time that comes and goes. No one's really going to remember, and judging it at the right level, it's
Yeah.
not, although this can feel like the biggest thing on earth to you, it's definitely not the most important part of anyone else's day in the room. And so,
Yeah.
so it's kind of getting at, and then like the more that you do, the easier it comes. And it's like anything. If I want a strong arm, I'm going to do lots of reps and just kind of lift a heavy weight. If I want to become good at speaking public, I'm just going to seize every opportunity to do that and stand up and be the person who gives a speech to my 7-year-old's birthday party. Just keep practicing wherever you get the chance.
And that's the key thing, is that repetition over time. They've got to stand up and realize that they've not going to be an overnight success. It's going to be something that builds, but we're trying to build that differentiator, as you say. We need to be something different from everybody else in the marketplace. So what can that be? Well, that's that standout individual that's making those videos, that's being part of the videos, that smiling face on the billboard next to the factory, isn't it? As you said. But it's building that over time. It's like the first time you do a video, the first time you do a podcast, you have to do that first step, and then you just have to build it and take that forward over time. So they're starting on the journey of doing that. Where would they need to be showing up first, do you think? Are there any sort of hints and tips of what would be good for them to think about?
So let's do some quick wins. So something that I've done for the last 15 years is I write a monthly newsletter, and it's a staggered way for me to kind of constantly put content out. So on a monthly basis, I'll kick out this newsletter, and it will start as it's from me, and it goes, "Hi, it's sunny on this Thursday morning. The DAFs are up. And this is what's been going on." And then I'll link to kind of 2 or 3 things that have happened over the last month. This is a social we had. This is an event we had. This is a project that we're really proud of. And it's really informal and chatty, and it's definitely from me. And consistently over the last 15 years, people who never reply to it, I've forgotten on their email list, will come up to me and go, "Oh, I've read the newsletter. Keep up the good work. It looks like you're doing great." And it's just that. And the way I build that up is I write one blog a week, every week or so. And it means that when it comes to writing a newsletter, you've got those kind of foundations, those pillars of writing that. So it's not hard to do. And then whenever you write a blog, you've got a couple of social bits to do. So it means that all that content during the month is that's the hygiene piece, which is looked after by itself. And I find that a really useful way, because all marketing really is to try and make sure that you are bringing people on the journey with you, because your journey will change. And if you're able to communicate that in a way that people think that like they're on that with you, that they respect that, and then you're front of mind as and when they want to reach out and buy your product or service. We always get a few leads in after that email goes out every month.
Mm. Fantastic. I never thought about a monthly newsletter. Actually, at that moment in time, you're only being yourself with words. You're not being yourself, having to put yourself on a stage or put yourself in front of a video camera. You're starting to build that strength of your skill set of being you and being open and being honest and being able to help people understand your journey. So, yeah, that's a great example. And if they wanted more exposure over time, where would they go next? What would be your next thought?
So as I said, like we don't have a retained PR agency right now, but have had great success. I think possibly the best money spent is employing a retained PR consultant who you meet with on a weekly basis and just have a conversation. What's happened over the last week? What's happening in the industry? Ask them to do some research and give you talking points about, is this interesting? Do you want to write a thought piece on this? Do you have anything to say about that? It means over time that PR that comes professional gets to know you, gets to understand what's happening in your business. You can work towards, if you've got a big project which is going to go live, they can then help drum up some interest so that they can write a press release about that, get the relevant journalists kind of G'd up so that on launch day, you make a bit of a fanfare. If you want to put an event around that, then it will, it just professionalizes that communication, which all of your SEO, if anyone's doing any research on you, if they type in your name and you're cited in, industry journals and third-party publications, that gives people a far higher impression of you and raises your positioning. And that positioning can be a massive accelerant to what you're doing.
So we need them to stand up and be different in the marketplace. We need them to stand out over time. But, as a business owner, I need quick results. This doesn't sound like a quick result type activity to help us stand out. What would you say to them based on, well, I need a faster return on investment than that?
There are ways that you can hack this. So, in fact, we worked out in the last week. So we've done a joint venture with the partner, and the pretext was this can be a good press piece for both of us. So, if you were looking for results now, find a partner that you think you might be able to, that you're non-competitive with, that you think you might be able to drum up some interest for both of your businesses. 1 + 1 = 3. There'll be partners out there, and say, look, let's do something together. We've got another one of these actually coming through. We were discussing yesterday where they've got a new bit of tech. We've got some data and creative assets. We're going to give them what we know. They're going to prove to us that their tech works, and together we're going to create a research paper which we're going to use to then go and make some noise in market together, drum up some interest in business for us. And, I expect that to be delivering returns for us within the next 8 weeks. So that's a quicker way to use these kind of comms first or kind of press release type moments to generate some quick results.
And I've read Daniel's book as well. I can see and understand that. As we're standing here today talking to this business owner that's struggling to be different in the marketplace, to build that differentiation, what's the one key sort of realization that we can give to them and say, look, this really does work? Give some examples.
I think the more that you're out there, the more you're asked to put these collateral together. It's just like sharpening the pencil. The more you put this together, the better you get at pitching. I find if we're kind of moving towards another product line, the best thing I can do is go to a networking event and you go and speak to 30 people, 30 different people ask you what you do. By the end of it, if you and because it's that whole kind of like, oh, I don't know how to communicate this well, that it's all just practice. And you can either pick up the phone and do a day's worth of cold calling to 100 people, but it's hard to get people to answer the phone these days. It's far easier to walk into a room and network that room, and by the end you've got your comms strategy a little bit easier, a little bit more differentiated. And there are a number of positioning statements. In fact, there's yeah, basically go online and find kind of standardized positioning statement exercises you can do. I've run through a load of those in the past, and that helps you. I can do this better than other people because that kind of structure I find useful when I'm workshopping new ideas. And I've used lean canvases and business model canvases. Are also, there's a number of tools and resources that if you really want to sit down with them and paper and work out how you create your point of difference. But I find delivers quicker than where the rubber hits the road, and that's being forced by humans in front of you to explain to you to them what you do.
Yes, there's lots of those out there. So let's close our conversation around this. What one thing do you think they should start tomorrow? What would be their first experiment?
Speaking more, the first experiment can be writing a public newsletter or blog about what they do, why they're different, and make a promise to the world that they'll do this on a regular basis.
Fantastic. Yes, you mentioned it earlier on, and I think that's probably one of the best ones to do because you're not in the gaze at that moment in time, but eventually you'll need to start bringing yourself out into the world as well. Charlie, fantastic conversation there. So let's do our wrap up and close now. What did you hear yourself say today that maybe surprised you?
That I should re-engage my PR. That's kind of interesting. It's interesting to look back on the journeys, the ups and downs, the resilience. I think people sometimes think there are shortcuts. There aren't. I do firmly believe in compound interest. If you go out and you work hard every single day, then over time it will start to pay off. Definitely seeing that.
Yeah, no, we believe at Stronger Business Together that growth is through challenge. You don't get growth from somebody gives you an answer. Actually, you need to go and find and discover and build it and make it your own and understand all the nuances that make it work in your environment and your business. So yeah, I totally agree that that brings that experience and knowledge. So finally, Charlie, how can people follow you more if they want to understand your journey and your business?
I try to make myself incredibly approachable. Search for Charlie Cadbury on LinkedIn, Charles Cadbury online, sayitnow.ai. Follow me, talk to me, call me.
Brilliant. Well, Charlie, thank you for an amazing conversation today. I know our listeners will get an awful lot from this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending your time with us today. We're on a mission to make business owners stronger together. If this conversation helped you, please like, comment and follow on whatever platform you're using. About 60% of our audience haven't done that yet, and these small actions will help us reach more business owners just like you. If you want to join the conversation as a guest, or if you have a hurdle question for us to tackle, reach out to us at info@strongerbusinesstogether now. Go make it a really successful week, and we'll see you next time. Cheers!